Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahabushai, Bahasham, Brakahakodash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahabushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. In peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm started off in Matthew chapter 24, verse 7. And this was Yahawashi Hamashiach, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus Christ, telling his disciples in the past of some of the end-time signs to look for, to know that his second coming was nigh, and that the end of the rulership of the heathen nations was at hand before the ushering in of the kingdom of heaven. But as it says in Romans chapter 15, everything written aforetime was written for our learning. Yahushua is really speaking to his disciples today who are living in these times of the end, before the end of the rulership of the heathen nations, chiefly by the biblical Edomites, who are known as the so-called white people today, and the ushering in of the kingdom of heaven under the true children of Israel, who are known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And the kingdom of heaven will last for eternity. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. And if you've got that spiritual eyesight, you can clearly see that these end time signs are either taking place or in the process of taking place as we speak. Nations rising against nations, with these racial tensions building up out here, especially in the United States of America. Kingdom against kingdom, Russia against Ukraine, the U.S. and NATO against Russia, China against Taiwan, Israel against Iran, famines, which what are you hearing about a lot in the news now? Talks of coming food shortages and warnings of global famines, where hundreds of millions of people face being on the verge of starvation, earthquakes in diverse places, and earthquakes are happening damn near daily all across the planet. And what I'll be dealing with in this video, pestilences, plagues, that word, Pandemic. And we've seen one over the past couple of years with the Cragamuffin 19. And as we'll see in this article from endoftheamericandream.com, you've got many different pestilences starting to pop up all across the planet. And again, this is just the end time signs Yahushua Hamashiach told his disciples to look for, to know that we're living in the last seconds of the last days before his second coming and the ushering in of the kingdom of heaven. Why are so many strange pestilences starting to spread all over the Western world? And this article was published on June 23rd. Why are so many dangerous diseases suddenly popping up all over the place? In this article, I'm going to tell you about 3 new outbreaks that I have never written about before, and the 4th one that I'm going to discuss has only been around for less than 2 months. For a long time, I have been warning that we were entering a new era of great pestilences, but that really didn't come to fruition until this year. Throughout 2020 and 2021, the world was fixated on one particular situation, but now strange new pestilences are erupting quite frequently. Can anyone out there explain why this is happening? And the men of the Lord, the prophets of the Most High, chiefly through GMS or Great Millstone, can explain exactly why it's happening. Hey, it's the signs and the judgments from Yahweh Bahashem Yahawashi, ushering the end of this age of the rulership of the heathen nations and punishing you people for all the wickedness you've been committing. This week, health officials in the U.S. revealed that we are now facing one of the worst outbreaks of meningococcal disease in the history of our country. The following comes from CBS News. Health officials on Wednesday recommended that men in Florida who have sex with other men get a meningococcal jump shot, following what the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention called one of the worst outbreaks of meningococcal disease among gay and bisexual men in U.S. history. Another pestilence affecting those in the alphabet group beginning with LG, and of course, remember what they've been talking about with the monkeypox, that it's mainly spread amongst men who are a part of the alphabet group beginning with LG. Hey, the Most High is visiting you sodomites for your iniquity. As it says in Leviticus, their blood shall be on upon them, their own blood shall be upon them, roughly paraphrasing. The CDC said in a statement that there have been at least 24 cases and 7 deaths among gay and bisexual men caused by the bacteria in Florida recently. And I read another article about this where it said it was mainly affecting so-called Hispanic men. Hey, you Israelites of the northern tribes, the Most High is definitely going to punish you for all the iniquity you've been committing. The CDC also recommended that gay and bisexual men traveling to Florida should ask their healthcare provider about getting a jump shot. 7 deaths in just 24 cases is a very high death rate. Hopefully, health officials will be successful in containing this outbreak, because this is a really nasty bug that you definitely do not want to get. Meningococcal disease is caused by a bacteria, and when the linings of the brain and spinal cord become infected, it is called meningitis. Meningococcal disease usually presents as an infection of meningitis or a bloodstream infection about 3 to 7 days after exposure, the CDC said. Both are serious and can be deadly. Meanwhile, polio has actually been detected in the United Kingdom. For the first time in nearly 40 years, health officials in the UK have identified a likely outbreak of polio in London. So far, there have been no cases of polio detected directly in the UK, but instead scientists have discovered the outbreak through an indirect route. They found multiple versions of the virus in sewage water, the UK Health Security Agency said Wednesday in a press release. This wasn't supposed to happen. The last confirmed case of polio in the United Kingdom was in 1984. Authorities theorize that it is now appearing in sewage water because an infected person brought the virus into London and then spread it to others who weren't immunized. People infected with polio or who have been jump-shotted with a live version of the situation shed traces of the situation in their stool, which eventually end up in sewage wastewater. So the current hypothesis is that an infected person brought the situation into London and then spread it to others who weren't immunized. On a different note, a man in Australia has developed a case of super gonorrhea after having sex with a prostitute in Cambodia. Super gonorrhea poses a major global threat, scientists have warned, in the wake of an Austrian man catching a drug-resistant version of the STI. The unidentified man in his 50s became infected after having unprotected sex with a prostitute while on holiday in Cambodia in April. A normal case of gonorrhea would not be newsworthy because there are millions of those each year. The reason why this new case is important is because it is a new super strain that could effectively render gonorrhea untreatable. Doctors called his strain extensively drug-resistant and different to one seen before. They warned it could effectively render gonorrhea untreatable if it was allowed to spread. Lately, I wanted to give an update on and you see that word for the rest of the video, we'll call it the Curious George outbreak. On Thursday, the total number of confirmed cases in the United States rose to 156. And remember, this article was published on June 23rd, so a couple of days ago. Those numbers have probably increased since then. And just recently, you had the WHO say this month that they're not considering the Curious George a pandemic of global concern, but next month they may consider labeling the Curious George that. It'll be interesting to see how this situation plays out. Curious George cases continue to rise in the U.S., with 14 new infections detected, data from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention shows. The latest update by the CDC on Thursday brings the nation's total cases to 156, only a month since the first U.S. case was detected. Overall, Curious George has now spread to 59 different countries, and there are 3,635 confirmed cases. If what we are dealing with was normal Curious George, I wouldn't be really too alarmed. However, scientists are telling us that this is a hyper-mutated strain, and officials here in the US are warning that unusual symptoms are being reported by many victims. Scientists have warned of unusual symptoms in US patients that were not previously associated with the situation. Some patients reported pain in or around the anus and rectum, rectal bleeding, proctitis, painful inflammation of the rectum lining, or the feeling of needing a bowel movement even though the bowels are empty. And remember, this new spread of Curious George is mainly happening among men of the alphabet group beginning with LG. Of course, it is entirely possible that those symptoms are being caused by something other than Curious George. Some food for thought to think about. But that's it with this article. Now I'm going to go to my second article, also on endoftheamericandream.com, titled Biden Says We Need More Money to Plan for the Second, and I'll call it Picnic. There's going to be another picnic. Is Biden talking about something in the future, or was this a accidental gaffe where Biden let loose the plans of the elites to bring about what? A second lockdowns and more restrictive measures out here. Should we be preparing for a second picnic to arrive? The man in the White House sure seems to think so. A lot of people don't take what Joe Biden has to say very seriously because it is obvious that he is in an advanced state of mental decline. But it is that lack of mental sharpness that causes him to slip up and reveal things that those around Biden do not want him to reveal. That is one of the reasons why Biden is kept away from reporters most of the time, but once in a while, there's an opportunity for reporters to directly interact with him. Did he accidentally say it, or was it on purpose? Remember, the powers that be out here like to do predictive programming, do left-handed prophesying, giving little tidbits here and there of news saying something may happen just for it to happen later on down the road, and for them to be justified in saying, look, we warned you that it was going to happen. Now we're going to have to bring in these draconian measures to handle the situation, leading to less rights and a more locked down society. We witnessed one of those brief opportunities this week, and the way that Biden responded to one reporter's question has a lot of people scratching their heads. And I'm just going to play the clip right here, let you hear it out of the horse's mouth.
This year, we do need more money, but we don't just need more money for vaccines for children eventually. We need more money to plan for the second pandemic. There's going to be another pandemic. We have to think ahead. And that's not something the last outfit did very well. That's something we've been doing fairly well. That's why we need the money. Thank you all.
That's it with this article. Hey, but as we can see, just as Yahushua said in Matthew chapter 24, in the last days, there would be pestilences, and expect to see more instances of different pestilences pop up all across the planet. But this is 2 Esdras chapter 16 in the Apocrypha. I'm going to read verses 17 to 20. Woe is me, woe is me. Who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? If you're a so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American, or even an Israelite foreigner who looks like a heathen but has come across videos like this, and your spirit resonates with the words of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, you should be doing everything you can to come back to your power, Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, so you can hope to have that protective hedge over you and be saved from these calamities of Jacob's trouble, which are quickly coming. Verse 19, behold, famine and plague, pestilences, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment, scourges for correction, scourges for punishment, scourges for judgment. Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, punishing you people on this planet for all the wickedness you've been committing, and mainly you Israelites. who are hard-headed and refuse to return to your power, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, and want to live after the ways of these heathen nations, especially these Edomites. And you heathens are going to go through it as well. Verse 20, but for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. And we can clearly see that right now. You have all these different judgments going out and people dying, but just because it's not on a mass scale yet, a lot of people don't acknowledge it as the judgments of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai and think that things are just going to go back to normal. Well, hey, there is no normal. This is the new normal. And as it says back in Matthew chapter 24, verse 8, all these are the beginning of sorrows. We're just in the beginning stages right now. It's going to get a hell of a lot worse from here on out. Hey, soon it's going to come to the point where people will see mass death and destruction out here, and it's going to cause a panic and uproar, just complete chaos and pandemonium out here. Apostle Tahar has deemed 2022 to be the year of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai turning things up, and we can clearly see that with each passing day, things are turning up exponentially. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong, as we can clearly see we're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.